I cannot even begin to express to you all watching right now how happy I am, and it has nothing to do with this bumper at the moment. This HPDG logo that you normally see in the videos, I found under the back seat of my red Dodge truck when I was putting that ratchet strap away. I actually made this right whenever I thought about doing YouTube and starting a channel, and I thought I had lost this when I took it with me to get that rollback truck. So I'm glad I found it. I was really bummed out about that, but luckily I ran across it and I don't have to make another one and wonder where that one went. But anyways, this is the deal of the century, at least in my opinion. This is a winch bumper. It was labeled as a worn, but I'm not 100% sure if it is. There is a worn sticker on it, but I think that's just because of the winch that was on this. But anyways, this is the exact style of bumper that you would see on the electric cooperative trucks that drive around in your area. These are normally the trucks that go out and fix storm damage, and they usually are spec'd out with some heavy-duty bumpers on the front of their trucks. I've seen quite a few that I think would fit my truck, but I really wanted the bars that protect the headlights. You can see the powder coating is flaking off of the bumper, but the bumper's not rusted out. I think I can clean that up pretty good. I may even spring to see if somebody could sandblast this for me. But on the inside, you can see the area where the winch would go. The person that I bought this from bought the bumper strictly for the winch that was in it. It probably had a 12,000 pound. I may even assume that it was a hydraulic style winch, but I'm not really sure. You can see the mounts on here are pretty much ambidextrous. This came off of a 2004 Chevy truck, so I may have to actually take my grinder and a cutoff wheel and buzz these off of here because they go underneath the headlights, but I'll check a little bit later on and see if it'll just fit the way it is. But again, you can see in here, it's been setting for a while. There's some pine needles, and the powder coating is flaking off. But I got an astronomical deal on this thing. It was listed on Marketplace for $300, and I thought, you know what? I seen the ad right after it came out. I'll go ahead and put the offer in. I kind of lowballed the guy at $200, but he said, come and get it. So I drove 45 miles away, picked it up, and you're going to see a little bit later on me adapt this onto the front of my 2001 Dodge Ram 2500. And yes, I will be putting a winch on the front of it. But anyways, you can see the worn sticker is on here, but if you're looking in correlation to the bottom of the bumper, it's sitting on here kind of crooked. So I think somebody got that with the winch and just put the sticker on this bumper, but it is still heavy factory made. You can see the heavy duty tow hooks up front. This bottom piece down here is bent. I don't think that I will need it for my truck, but still it's there if I need to straighten it out. But you can also see the spot for the fair lead for the winch. Overall, I am ecstatic on having one of these finally. I thought about building my own, but for the price I paid for this, I don't even think the steel would have come close to what I paid. I was getting ready to clean up the mess of pine needles and sort through it for the bolts. I got over here, I turned this upside down, and wouldn't you know it, you can see a Ford logo in there, so I'm not sure what's going on. The bumper, I was told, came off a Chevy. I don't know if they maybe just sourced these off of a Ford or what's going on, but it was kind of noteworthy, so I'll have a Ford Chevy bumper going on my Dodge. Let me tell you, I may have cleaned the property up around here and put some gravel down to make it easier to get trucks in the garage, but since this second-gen Dodge is honestly about the same length as a school bus, it was still difficult getting in here. But I still managed. I just wanted to point out some discrepancies, first of which, at the beginning of this video, was a few months ago, and I had the stock 3rd-gen steel wheels on here, and now I have 17-inch Method racing wheels. They look pretty rugged, I guess you would say, still not really my style. I do like the fact that they have a machined look and they're not chrome, but the biggest thing that I do like about them is you can see with the back spacing, these aftermarket Yukon gear hubs are actually inside the face of the wheel. When I had the stock 3rd-gen steel wheels on here, the back spacing had the wheel set in a little further, and these hubs stuck out and looked pretty goofy. But right now, you can see, they look pretty decent. Another thing I wanted to point out real quick is, yes, I know this grill looks absolutely terrible. It was like a $60 Amazon special that I bought when I had this truck the first time. That's going to get changed whenever that bumper goes on here. Now, the driver's side inner fender has already been taken out because I used that space to put on a fast fuel system. You can see it's easier to get in here and put the fuel line up to the injection pump. So this one's out already, so I'll show you the bumper support for the side of the bumper. It comes down here to the C-clip on the inside of the frame. I believe this is a 15 millimeter. I'll go ahead and buzz these off on both sides, and then we'll worry about the bolts on the inside of the frame. Boy, was I wrong about the size. That's an 18 millimeter. The corner support is removed on the driver's side. The passenger side still has the inner fender in here. You can see that it's been broke for a long time. I've actually got 2 new ones to go on this truck once the bumper's installed, and most of these clips are broken anyway, so I need to get in here with some pliers, pop the old clips out of here, and get this inner liner removed. These can usually be reused, but since I've got new ones and these old ones are brittle, I'll just get these old ones out of the way and install the new liner with the other ones that I have. Space up top is very limited. Let me see if I can get the camera at a decent angle. You can tell that the AC condenser is in between the bumper and the radiator of the truck, making the space up top pretty scarce and difficult to get your hands or tools in there to take the bumper off from the top of the truck. So you really have to do this from underneath. Let me get the camera in here. You can see that there are 3 bolts that hold this bumper bracket to the frame horn of the truck. This bumper bracket off to the right is attached to the bumper at the top, so you want to take it off of the frame from here. And this far left bolt from the camera view is obstructed behind the frame horn of the truck, so you have to really put your extensions and your wobble sockets together. That's what I've got going, one at the bottom, one at the top up here. It would be ideal for an 18 millimeter deep well socket, but I only have a shallow, so I'm going to try to make that work. Got the impact right there. Let's try to get some of the footage removing these bolts. It's going to be difficult, but got to get to it. Alright, so the difficult one to get to has been removed. I usually leave this one in here on both sides, just about finger tight. That way when I drop the bumper down on these second gen trucks, it's easier to fight with this one than to fight with that one when it comes to removing this and laying underneath of it. So just repeat the process on the other side, but I'm going to remove both of these and then we'll get this bumper off of here. And there you have it. So the stock bumper is out of the way. Boy, let me tell you, after a long day at work, that's pretty heavy.
I don't know how much longer I can hold this.
Stock bumper sitting over there. Here's the one going on the truck. I have to actually put the bumper back on this truck since I don't have the brackets made and drive it to work tomorrow. But anyways, I should mention those bolts that hold the bumper onto the frame of the truck, they are encapsulated, so you don't have to worry about holding a wrench on the other side of it, which makes it a little bit nicer. Two of them are together, one's by itself. But anyways, it's time to move the truck a little bit further forward in here, use the gantry crane, and see how this goes. I got it very roughly mocked up, but first impressions, I'm probably like you. That looks pretty terrible. Yeah, it doesn't really look that good. But like I said, this is a very rough mock-up, and this bumper come off another model of truck. But I've got plenty of room to get in here. I think that I can cut this bumper all the way back to here, where the winch box is, and still have enough room to wiggle it a little bit further forward and a little bit up. I might get in here also with my grinder and just cut these off. They're only tack welded on the back. That'll allow me to move this up a little bit, probably 3 or 4 inches. I probably don't want to go any higher than they had it already. But anyways, like I said, that's a very rough mock-up. But I'm not really doing this to try to make the truck look any cooler. I'm hoping that it will at the end, not going to lie to you. But I really want a winch on the front of my truck to help out winching projects up onto trailers and helping out do that kind of thing. So let's back the truck back out, keep the jack stands under the corners, and get to trimming. Even though I've got a pretty good chain holding this on here, it still kind of sketches me out being underneath of it. But anyways, you can see these mounts here that they had for the Ford. I can probably go ahead and just remove these, cut this bracket off, and then if you notice, it's not really centered where it should be, but if I make a flat bracket here to tie these bolt holes together, I can probably make an L-shaped bracket to go into the frame on this Dodge. So even though it might not look that good so far, it's actually a lot closer than I ever would have guessed. I really need to rent a roller and get that gravel packed down outside because I just dug about an 8-inch deep rut in there. So the bumper technically does not have to be centered on the cardboard. I just have to make sure that it's not hanging too far off to the side over my template. But hopefully you get the idea of what I'm doing here. As long as I can transfer the basic shape of this to the cardboard and then center the cardboard template onto that bumper, I should be able to trim off the excess of what I don't need. So let me take this marker here, and it should work in theory. Now yes, I know you could take measurements and you could use a tape measure all day long, but sometimes it's just easier to do it this way. It's not a definitive line. I'll still probably have to fine-tune it just a little bit. But for right now, that should work. Second gen bumper template. So I'm going to get in here with my grinder and cutoff wheel. You can see there's some stitch welds on these filler pieces on both sides. I'll go ahead and chop those off of there, and then I'll lay that template out. I know there's a lot of talking in this video. If you stuck with me this far, you are a trooper. I was originally going to cut these off of here, but I didn't really pay too close of attention, and they're just bolted on. You can see how they snake up there. They've got some grade 8 hardware holding them on there. But anyways, let's get the bumper a little closer to the outside of the garage or the door so I don't throw sparks in here, and let's get to it. Here's a better view of what I done. You can see that I made sure to cut right on the weld instead of gouging into here or cutting into this piece, because that would have been unnecessary. I cut all of the stitch welds all the way down here. So just like the other side, let's take the big fancy hammer and knock this bracket off of here. Alright, so the basic shape has been cut in here, and you might be able to tell that overhang is gone, so I can get this bumper about 1.5 inches closer to the front of that truck. Now I need to get in here and unbolt these brackets that I'm not going to use. Alright, so all the unnecessary bracketry has been removed. I've got it in a pile over here. Those are the 2 brackets that I just took off of there, along with the bolts, washers, and hardware. Don't ever get rid of that stuff. You can always use it on something else. But anyway, you can see it's a pretty straightforward shot to make a plate that covers the span of those bolt holes. Just a flat plate, and I can come off of there with an L-shaped bracket to go to the frame to that truck. If I slot the bracket that I'm going to make, I can have some adjustment in there. So it's time to go to the steel place tomorrow and see what I can find. I'll probably get some drops of some pieces of sheet that they've cut off already. You can see this bracket is actually flat. It's bowed out a little bit right here, but the other side is worse. Just have to tap this back down and make sure that both of the mounting surfaces are flat and parallel with one another so this bumper actually fits right. A little bit more. Might have been too much on the very bottom there. Well, nope. Two hits, and that's a whole lot better than it was. The edge of this is bent up a little bit, so pretty much took care of it right there. I got the mounts cleaned up and flattened. I cleaned them up just so it's easier to make the templates from. But this seems like a pretty, I would hate to say poor design. I'm sure that it was done like this for a reason. My guess that there's no brace on here is so you could get your hand in behind and get the bolts in here easier. But this was bent because there's nothing supporting it. At the top, there's this piece of angle iron that goes to the corner here, and there's also a brace in there. But the bottom is just kind of left out there to do its own thing. So I'm going to take a piece of 3x5 steel. I'm going to go down in here from the bottom of the mount up to that top angle iron brace. Obviously I will make sure that it's nice and square, but I'll weld it up top here and I'll weld it down on both sides on the bottom. So whenever this bumper is on the truck and I actually winch something, I won't have to worry about the bumper mount bending the bottom here and causing me all kinds of problems down the road with having this bumper look funny. So I'll take that piece of steel, put it in there, grind everything really nice, weld that in, and then we'll make the mounts. I almost went to my steel supplier after work, but I thought that I had a piece of steel here in the garage, and luckily I was right. I've got this chunk of 5/16. I've got it clamped down to this homemade welding table, so I can mark these 3x5 pieces out. As long as I keep it close to the edge and don't make a lot of wasteful cuts, I should be able to make the mounts out of here, and also the mounts that go from the truck frame to the bumper. So let me get this mapped out, cut out, we'll weld them on the bumper, and then I can start designing those custom mounts. Actually get the ground on the clean metal. Alright, what do you think? Not too shabby for a guy that drives a dump truck for a living, right? Try to get the best camera angle here so you can actually see these. Don't look too bad, I don't think. I got the welder still running so it cools down a little bit. What do you think? I think that'll work just fine. Early this morning, I pulled the truck in here and test fit this bumper for the final time. I've got it dialed in just about right where I need it to go. I'll go over that in just a moment. But anyway, since I trimmed that unnecessary fat from the backside of this bumper, you can see that the fit is much nicer and it's closer to the body of the truck. The wheel opening back here actually matches up like it should. There's still a gap on both sides underneath the headlight. But when we go to the driver's side, I've got the original filler panel that I cut from the top of this bumper earlier in the video. And you can see that I've actually got the bumper mounted about an inch higher than they had it from the factory. Now what I found out was this bumper came off of mid-2000s Ford Super Duty, since the hooks had the Ford emblems on them down there. But I mounted this up a little bit higher because I want every inch of ground clearance that I can get. Now, in between the grill guard and the headlight on both sides, there's an area where I can mount a light. I'm not really a big fan of LED light bars, but I gave myself some clearance underneath in case I want to put one underneath the bumper. But anyways, that's how it's setting. In my opinion, it looks pretty good. It's hard to get a good view here in the garage because it's kind of close quarters with everything stacked in here. But now it's time to go over the mounts and show you what I've got made up on those. I went ahead and traced the inside of the frame rail onto a piece of cardboard, and I used that for my first template. Now this is actually going to work for both sides because both sides of the frame of the truck are identical, so that helps me out quite a bit. But this fits in here nice and snug. You can see where I've actually got the factory bolt holes circled in here, and it shows where they are in correlation to this bracket that I'm making. Now the factory used these 3 holes. There's a 4th one back here that wasn't utilized for anything, but I'm going to drill a hole and put a bolt and nut through there since I can get one on the back side. There's a cross member that goes from this frame rail to the one on the driver's side, and through this access point you can see where my cardboard is actually resting up against that piece of 3/16 steel, so this bracket cannot move up or down in here once it's bolted in. It fits nice and tight up in the frame of this truck. So I'll clamp this in place and I'll show you the next part of the puzzle. I've got everything traced out, so let's see if I can do this one-handed. It might move a little bit, but now I'll show you the inside that I'm talking about. It's times like this, when I'm laying down on a piece of cardboard, pretty much standing on my neck, that I envy the fact that some people have 4-post lifts to work off of. But anyways, you can see this bumper is sitting in here, and I scribed this line with a little O in the center, meaning that's the original location of the bumper. I want to actually move it out a 1/4 of an inch further forward. That way, whenever I get in here with my bolts, you can see I've got a little bit more room on this AC condenser above me. But since this bumper bracket stops, I'm going to come in here and make all of this one piece. So just hear me out. There's a little bit of a gap here. But this bumper bracket will actually go further up to catch the bumper higher up here. I want to actually have a lot more strength in here so I don't have to worry about winching something and bending the mounts. So that is going to be all one piece, and it's going to hook to the bumper right up here. So then again, you've got this one piece of steel that slides inside of the frame rail of the truck, that bracket that bolts to the back side of the bumper, and these both get welded together somewhere about in this area, and that's what holds the bumper to the front of this truck. So now it's time to take all of this cardboard, transfer it onto some steel, and start making some mounts. So there you have the cardboard template of the rough design, and there is the rough piece cut out of this chunk of steel. Now it's time to take the grinder and a flap wheel, clean this up, and see how it actually fits in the frame. I got the truck pulled down here because I don't want to damage the glass with any sparks. But all that hard work of measuring out onto cardboard and then transferring to steel leads you right to this. A bracket that'll go inside the frame, incorporate all of the factory holes that I can use and run bolts through, and that's not going anywhere. And just in case you were wondering, like I mentioned earlier, both of these frame rails are made the same, so these brackets work for either side. Now it's time for the difficult task of copying this, making sure they're pretty close to the same, drilling the holes, and then making the mounts to weld these to the bumper. So I traced one out and made two. Closest you're probably going to get, unless you have a CNC table or something. There's one for the driver's side. There's one for the passenger side. You can see that I also moved it away from the AC condenser like I mentioned. I moved this bracket a little bit further forward from my measurements. So now that I've got the frame side done, it's time to concentrate on the bumper side. Let me show you in the garage what I'm talking about. So how does that old saying go? Buy once, cry once? How about build once, cry once? I really want to try to make this mount as strong as I can, again, for the reason that I have that winch in there. I don't want to ever have problems with this and have to take it apart and try to redesign something. So, I got two of these mounts made for the frame that you just seen outside. Now it's time to work on the mount that bolts to this bumper. Now there's 4 bolt holes here. I could just take a piece of that steel that I just chopped them mounts out of and just barely cover the span of these 4 bolt holes. But since my mount is a little bit further down, that would leave space up here that's not really being used. So what I'm going to do, you can see the outline of these holes and just the surface right here. This is actually the back side of the mount since I traced it in reverse. I'm going to take a piece of steel this exact size, and I want to cover this whole area so I can probably drill 2 more holes up here and have a little bit more strength. The corner down here, I decided to cut that off of here because it would just be wasted steel. There's actually nothing over here to weld to. But to give you a visual reference, this slides in the frame of the truck. This will go up to the mount that I'm going to build right here and weld it on both sides. That way I've got a really strong mount from when I'm winching on stuff. And then, since it slides inside of the frame on this side, on the opposite side that you're looking at, I'll come through with some triangulated pieces and match to this, weld it all up, and make it nice and strong. So when I'm dragging that old truck out of a field 5 years from now, I don't have to worry about looking back on this video and kicking myself now for not making it strong while I had the chance. Let's do this one time and not have to worry about it again. Now before you think that you're going crazy or seeing double, no, I will admit that I do own 2 red extended cab 2nd gen Dodge trucks. This one just happens to be a gasser that I use for hauling wood, and driving around locally to my property. It gets pretty bad fuel mileage, so it sticks around here. It's the only truck that I've got that's got an automatic in it, and not a big fan. But anyways, here's all the hardware to hold the bumper to the frame of the truck when we get to that point. Here are the two pieces of steel that I needed to make the other brackets. The piece of diamond plate is going to make the filler pieces underneath the headlights. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the diamond plate, but both of these were already drop pieces, meaning I didn't have to be charged to have them cut with the big shear. This one's going to make the bumper brackets that go to the bumper. This will work out pretty perfect, I think. My measurements, I'll have a little bit left over for other jobs. Now let me ask you, one of these was $97 and the other was $40. Which one would you guess? You think the steel would be $97, right? Well, no. It's the grade 8 bolts and hardware. You can see a 10 count box of 5/8 by 11. Nylock nuts is $10.99. 5/8 by 11 by 1.5 inch. Bolts, count of 10 is $17.49. Then you got all the other assorted ones in this bag. So you got a lot of money wrapped up here, but anyways, that's pretty much the only money I've had to spend so far up into this point other than buying the bumper. But now it's time to cut those other brackets out and get to it. The wind's pretty bad today, so please forgive the audio at this moment, but I'm getting these bumper brackets matched up so I can grind them down so they're pretty close to identical. Now I have some vice grips holding them on this side. You can see I've already smoothed this side down and also the bottom side right here. Another good alternative, if you're wanting to keep pieces the same, smooth one side down, then tack weld them together. But since my welder's buried behind the bumper, I'm just doing the best I can with these vice grips, but they're turning out pretty good so far. I ran into my first real setback a few moments ago. You might have seen on camera. I got the air tool out. What I wasn't taking into consideration is these mounts on the bumper side were actually punched holes, so the 5/8 bolts that I had wouldn't go through there. There was a sharp ridge. But anyway, you can see this one's just basically sitting on here. The bolts aren't tight yet. That's the bumper side. This is the frame side. It's going to weld together. And that's what's going to create this mount. And then I'll come off of the weld joint right there with some supports. But anyways, wasn't taken into consideration that these were punched holes, so I had to get out the rotary drill, the steel rotary drill right there. You can see that it's actually a Vermont American tool, which actually worked pretty good. I'm used to using junk like this. And there you pretty much have it. There's the frame side with 3 1/2-inch holes, 1 5/16 hole. So now it's time to take both of these, lay them on top of one another, tack weld the corners, and drill the holes from this one into the other, and do the same for the bumper brackets. That way I don't have any variation in the holes, and they'll fit exactly the way I'm planning. The plates are made and all of the holes are drilled in them, aside from the top 2 in this bumper. I decided to add 2 at the top just so I have a little bit more strength. These are 5/8 holes. These are going to be 1/2 inch because the angle iron goes up here and I don't have enough room to have a 5/8 hole up there. You can see the grade 5 nuts actually holding the bolts on here. That's just for mock-up. But I'm going to get these in place, tighten the plates down. That way I know where to drill the holes, and that's one step closer to getting it put on the truck. Just finished up drilling this side. I've got one more to go. You can see these holes need to be drilled out. If you're new to the gearhead game, maybe you're not familiar, but I can probably bring back at least one bad memory if you've been doing this for a while. Oh yeah, that's the only drill that I've got with a chuck big enough to accept that 1/2-inch bit. A lot of these tools in the garage were bought by my grandfather, so luckily I've got this stuff around to use. Maybe you do, maybe you do not know. Just because this has a D handle on the back doesn't mean you should grab it, because when this thing actually does catch, you're going to end up twisting your wrist almost off of your arm. So I've got the bumper brackets mounted up on here with miscellaneous grade 5 and grade 8 hardware. I had to go through my parts bin here and find some fasteners to hold these on here. I didn't want to use the Nylux that I have and already wear them out. But now it's time to take these down to the frame, get these installed. I can pull the truck in here, get this bumper lined up, and get them welded on here. So let's get to it. And there you have it, folks. All the hard work is paid off. You can see how nicely that lines up. I got to get this side adjusted just a little bit more. Then it's time to burn these in, pull them back off the truck, strengthen them up a bit, and then put this bumper on for the final time. Welder's cooling down again. I've really got no good way of clamping this stuff, so I just try to skip around and minimize any kind of warping. See if I can get the camera aligned with this light so you can see how I've got these welded. I honestly don't think they turned out too bad. I don't think there's really any warping. Welds got a little bit chunky where you can see where I went over the original tack welds whenever I was laying underneath the truck from earlier. But I don't think they're too bad for a guy that drives a dump truck all day. But anyways, now it's time to let these cool down. I really got to throw the bumper back on this truck so I can drive it in the morning. So I guess that's enough work on these mounts. It's time to take the stock bumper, throw it back on there with a couple bolts so I can drive to work in the morning. But tomorrow the plan is to get in here and stiffen these up a little bit more with some braces, and then they should be good. Flash forward to Thursday. It's after work. I pulled the bumper back off. I need to get to this because I'm losing daylight pretty fast. But you can see the cardboard template that I cut out for the gusset that goes here in the corner on the bottom section on both sides. It'll fit right in here, and it will actually go in there and weld on top and bottom and tie both of these sides together so you don't have to worry about side-to-side motion. The corner's cut off there just to get over the weld, but it will fit nice and tight in there. But you take this bracket, flip it upside down, and it will work, of course, on the driver's side as well, since they're both the same bracket. So let's get two of these cut out, welded on each side and the bottom, and then the top is hard to show with the bumper on the truck, so I'll probably just flash forward to having those cut out and tack welded on here, but it's time to turn this into a piece of steel. Early Saturday morning, I just wanted to show you, I did in fact weld the bottom side of these gussets. What I'm working on now is cutting out 3/4 inch wide strips of steel to make something just about like this. That'll go in here and weld, and that will give me the support I need on the top. So let me fine tune this a little bit and I'll get back to you when it's welded in. And just like that, I've got the gussets welded in on the top side, so both of these mounts are nice and strong. The welds are all ground down nicely to where these brackets will slide easily into the truck frame. Now it's time for me to pull the old Dodge over here, pop the stock bumper off of there, and give you all the first look of what it looks like mounted on the truck. What's that? It would appear that somebody said nice things about my YouTube channel a while back, and I didn't do the same for them. Well, quite a few people said nice things about my channel. I just wasn't making videos at the time, so now it's time to talk about that person and show the sticker that they sent me.
Gosh, time is already flying, and so is money, isn't it?
It's definitely.
It's one of those days where buy more junk out here at a secret place that y'all will never know where it is because it's a secret. Are you picking up a couple things?
I'm picking up a few things. Yep, picking up a few things.
I guess your trailer makes sense for that. Mine, I brought something and I'm picking up something. But let's dig into this yard and see what treasure lies ahead. This is TC Finds.
That's such a cool truck.
It is. It's a very decent old truck. And this, I bet, can move a few old oak trees and maybe squeeze it out of here. I don't know. I think I checked it and it's locked. Not the door, but the engine. We'll work past that.
Now take a gander at this nice quality channel sticker with this old Dodge swept line front and center. Tyler has a fantastic YouTube channel. He keeps things mostly family friendly. Not to knock any of his videos, I have heard a few cuss words, but it's nothing majorly vulgar or anything like that. Just a real world guy working on cleaning up properties. He actually saves a lot of these old trucks from a would-be grave. He's got help in a lot of the videos from a good friend of his named Zane Edwards. It's very nice to watch channels like this where they save trucks and don't just send them to the scrapper. So I'll leave his channel linked in the video description below. If you like my videos, I believe you'll really like Tyler's. So go ahead and drop by his channel and subscribe, leave a kind comment. It would be greatly appreciated. But since he put my channel sticker on his vehicle, it's time to put his channel sticker on my truck. So let's clean this window and stick it on right about here. So there you have it. TC Finds. If it was easy, it would be hard. The wind is starting to pick up, and I am walking around in gravel, so please forgive the audio. I don't know what this camera is picking up. But some angles, I look at this bumper, and I really like it a lot. And to be completely honest with you, there's other angles that I look at it, and I can't stand it. So let me know in the comment section what you think. This bumper will still do the job, and it does look pretty good on the front of the truck. Now, I didn't finish it completely. There will be a part 2, but this is the bumper roughly mocked up on the front of my truck. The mounts are all done. It's cold enough right now I can't paint them, so speaking about paint, I can't clean the bumper up and paint it neither, but I didn't make the filler pieces in here because this is an SLT style grill, which means it's flat on the bottom. I do plan on running a sport grill in here, which is curved. So if I made the filler pieces that go all the way across, I would just have to switch the grill out and then trim them back down. So it seems like a lot of effort that I don't need to do at the moment. So I did decide to not run the diamond plate in here like I showed earlier in the video. I picked up that piece, but I got to thinking about, since this is all sheet steel, I think diamond plate in here would stick out like a sore thumb. So I just got some 16 gauge to go in there. I don't know what style of winch I'm going to put in here just yet, or if I'm going to run steel cable or synthetic rope, since it'll be out in the elements. Something else to mention is when we get over to the side, you can see the wheel opening is off just a little bit. Now when I make the filler piece, I'll angle it from here up to here. It may look just a little bit goofy, but I've done that on purpose. I moved the bumper away from the AC condenser, and I also am planning on running 37-inch tall tires instead of these 35s. So any kind of clearance that I can do right now and save myself a hassle is going to pay off in the long run. But like I said, again, let me know in the comments section what you think. And there you have it, folks. The entire process I went through to take this aftermarket Super Duty Ford style winch bumper and adapt it to the front of my second gen Dodge truck. This video is going to be well over an hour long, so if you watch it all the way through without skipping around, I greatly appreciate that, first of all. And second, it helps me out a lot more than you would ever know on this platform. Since the video is going to be over an hour, a lot of people will probably skip it entirely. And in all honesty, I could have trimmed this video way down, but I wanted to show this entire process, finding the bumper, tracking down the steel for the mounts, designing the mounts first with cardboard and then transferring them to steel so I don't have a lot of wasted cuts and steel lying around. Done some welding, some fabricating, I think for the first time ever on the channel, instead of just going and buying an old truck and dragging it home. Hopefully I can do more of these videos of fabricating stuff. Before I had a channel and made videos, I've done this quite a bit. So let me know in the comment section if you like the video. And also, I hope this video is a little bit inspirational because I'm not a welder or a fabricator by trade. I'm not sitting in $1 million climate-controlled garage with a CNC machine behind the camera. This is something your average everyday gearhead could do over the course of a couple weekends just like I done. So thank you very much for watching the video. And always remember that it doesn't matter if you're working on your project in a garage or in your driveway. What matters is that you go out there, you do the job yourself, and you learn more about your project, whatever that project may be. Now that this video's over, how about you go outside and work on something? My name is Zane, and I hope to catch you next time.